Hello, it's Cindy Ingram, and I am attempting to use StreamYard for the first time, but welcome back. This is the Art and Self podcast, and it is also the new streamed version of the Art and Self podcast. So I am now streaming on Facebook. I am streaming on my Facebook page and my Facebook profile. I am streaming on YouTube, and I'm streaming on LinkedIn, and I'm streaming on Instagram. So I could have viewers from 5 different places showing up on here. And I think I should be able to see all of your comments except for those of you that are watching on Instagram, because I don't think that works. And I am so excited to be back for the Art and Self podcast. So I haven't recorded an episode of the podcast since I think October or November, and it is now May 17th. And I love the format of my podcast where I look at and talk about art with people. But I was finding that the format of picking 4 artworks for a particular person and having them choose was really hard to keep up with, like finding the artwork, scheduling the interviews, writing the show notes, all of that kind of stuff was quite a burden on my energy. And one of the big things that I've discovered since my book came out, since the last episodes of the podcast, is that I figured out I was autistic. So how I manage my energy has become like the thing that I have to do. I mean, it was my thing before, but now it's like more of a thing than it ever has been. And so I've been trying to think about ways to make things easier and ways to really capitalize on what I'm doing. So that's why I've got this new software that I figured out that will spread the podcast to various places and video. You'll be able to actually see the artwork. So if you're watching the video, obviously you're going to be able to see the artwork. But if you are listening on the podcast, if you go to one of those platforms, except for Instagram, I think it will delete after after the live is over on Instagram. But if you go to Facebook, if you go to YouTube, you'll be able to see my face, and you'll be able to see the artwork, and you'll be able to see the faces of my guests as well, because I still will have guests on the podcast. It's just going to be a little bit different. So what's going to be different is that instead of me choosing artworks that are aligned with that person, I'm just going to pick an artwork, and we're just going to talk about it, and our humanity will show up with the artwork, and that's what we're going to do. And I will pick really interesting artworks that are complex and interesting and have a lot of meat to them. And then whoever is with me on the podcast will get to explore that with me. So it will be exciting, and I am really looking forward to this new format. I think it will be a lot easier for me. So if you are listening or watching, and you would like to come on and talk about a work of art with me, you don't have to be promoting a business or a book or whatever it is. You can just come on and talk about art with me. I would love to have you. If you would leave me a comment, or you can send me an email at cindy@artclasscurator.com. I would be happy to talk to you about coming on to the new live stream podcast. So that's the number one update I have for you. The second update, I have a couple updates before we actually get to talk about the work of art. So thank you for your patience before we get to the work of art. The next thing is I have a program called Art Church, and I have been running it for 2 months now, and it has been absolutely amazing. And what we've been doing in that group is exploring the work of Frida Kahlo, her diary, which I have right here, which I don't have the pretty cover on it right now, but the Diary of Frida Kahlo, Intimate Self-Portrait. We've been using this as a sacred text. So it's a secular group, but we've been using her writing and her artwork in a sacred way. And we have a live meeting the third Thursday of every month. And so I will welcome you to that. And oh, you know what? I've been playing around with this. What is it called? StreamYard, and I can put links on, but I didn't have one for Art Church. But now watch how fancy this is. I can show you the link. Cindy, I actually hope that's the link. I just kind of typed it in. I'm pretty sure that's the link. CindyIngram.com/art church. And you can join our Facebook group in there. You can also get on the email list to get email reminders. But most of the stuff happens in the Facebook groups. The reminders, to get the Zoom link, and conversations afterwards and stuff like that are happening in that Facebook group. So we would love to have you. It's completely free. And it has been just an absolute delight. Last time in April, we analyzed one of her phrases in that she wrote. And she says, she will try. Shoot, no, I don't remember it. It was about a pencil sharpened to infinity, and we analyzed what that meant, and spent some really good time talking about philosophy and words and language, and it was really fabulous. And then we did an activity about color, which she did in her journal as well. And then in our first session, we did kind of a word association thing. We ended up writing poems from our word associations, and it was really awesome. So if you want to participate in that, go over to CindyIngram.com/art-church, and I would love to have you in there. It's been an absolute joy of a program. So my last update, no, I have two more updates before we talk about the artwork. The next one is to follow me on Substack. So this is the podcast will be my one way of communicating to you. My social media obviously is another, but I have really been enjoying writing again on my Substack. It's kind of blog post style, but they also go out via email. So if you are not following me on Substack, you can follow me at CindyIngram.substack.com. And then if you're a paid subscriber, you get a free artwork made by me, which I can show you them. They are, everything's within arm's reach. I've got piles everywhere. And you can see all the piles behind me too. I have all these lovely collages that I made. I just kind of went for it one day, and I was like, I'm going to make a bunch of collages, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But they have little quotes on them and things, and they're mixed media. Most of them are some sort of painted background. They've got washi tape. They've got paint. They've got stuff collaged on. Some of them have little drawings too. This one's my favorite one. I'm not giving this one away. This one's mine. And the quotes came from a little quote book I have. They also came from my Lin-Manuel Miranda book, Good Night, Good Morning, Good Night, I think is what it's called. So anyway, if you're a paid subscriber for Substack, you can get one of these. And then lastly, before we get to our artwork for today, I would love to invite you to the Art Connection Circle. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, you probably have heard me rave and rave and rave some more about this program. It is absolutely the best program I've ever done. Not done, but as in best program I have ever created. And it is a group program where we get together and we talk about art together. So you'll kind of get a little taste of it in the podcast. Me and one other person will be talking about a work of art. And then in the group program, there's usually about 8 to 10 people. And you see those same people every week in the program, and then you really get to know those 8 people. I say 8 because the 8 is the number we just had, but we look at art in terms of learning about ourselves and connecting with each other rather than just to learn about the art itself. And it is a really fascinating experience. You learn a lot about yourself, a lot of aha moments about who you are and how you go about your life and how you want your life to be different. And by the end of it, you really have a lot more clarity than you had before about the type of life you want to lead. And we've seen people change jobs. We've seen people leave toxic relationships. We've seen people really transform the way they're interacting with their families and having more joy in their home life. All of these things are making art more that, they wanted to be making art, but they weren't, and now they are. Um, it the results are dependent upon the person, but you do it in community, and it's a beautiful place. And I think the number one thing that people have been getting out of it is that the connections that you have with the other people and witnessing their growth, helping them with their growth at the same time as them helping you with your growth. And it is an absolutely beautiful experience. I have 2 cohorts starting in June. One of them is on Sunday mornings. It's 12 to 2 Eastern time here in the US. And then, so I guess that's afternoon, but since it starts at 11 for me, I consider that morning because I'm not a morning person. And then the other time slot is Tuesdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. So there's 2 options of times, and there's 2 different start dates. The first cohort starts in early June, and then the second cohort starts in mid-June. So we'd love to have you in that program. The people that are already enrolled are like fantastic, and you will love them and you'll love spending time with them. I'm so excited that I get to spend more time with them this summer. So that is coming up very, very soon. And it is just it's an absolutely wonderful experience. So I would love to have you. Okay, so those are my updates, right? Let me check. New format podcast. Talk about art with me. Substack, Art Church, Art Connection Circle. Okay, we have covered all of the businessy things, and now we're going to talk about a work of art. So if you're watching live, which there's only one person, so hello, one person. If you're watching this even live or even later, and you have a comment about the artwork that you would like to share, an interpretation, maybe you interpret it differently than I do. I'd love to hear that in the comments. So go ahead and type your thoughts and insights in the comments below and add to the conversation about the artwork. Sometimes these conversations will be with another person. Obviously, that's how I've been doing it in the past. But today, it's just going to be me talking about the artwork by myself. So that will be a little bit different. Let me take that Art Connection Circle banner off the screen. So for your podcast listeners, you have to pretend you can see me because I will mention what you can see. And I apologize that you can't see it. But okay, let's look at the artwork. And now I don't have the title for this because this is my favorite artist. And I was just looking at her art the other day, and I saw this painting, and I was kind of like knocked over by it. And the site that I found the painting on, it did not list the title, and then I couldn't find it anywhere else. It wasn't on her website. I mean, it does 100% look like her art, so I'm like, of course it's her art, but like I have no idea what the title is. So you will have to, if you're listening to the podcast, click on the show notes to find the image so you know what we're talking about. Okay, now let's see if I did this correctly. Oh, shoot, what did I do? Add to stage. I did it. Okay. Which way do we want it? Do we want me big? Okay. Let's do this one. Or that one. Oh, that's so tiny. Okay. Let's go with that. We've got I'm so excited about all these StreamYard features. Okay, so look at this artwork. We're going to do my 4-step process. And so since it's the first time that I am doing this in this new format, and it's the first time that it's just me by myself, I'm going to talk you through my 4-step process. And this is a process that we use in the Art Connection Circle. We don't often explicitly use it like, okay, we're doing step 1, then step 2, then step 3, but it's a really good starting place for looking at art in a more personally connected way, which is the way I look at art, that it's not about we're looking at this to learn about the history of this painting or about the life of this artist. We're looking at it to find connections to ourselves. So the first step of my 4-step process, called the whole art method, is savor. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to take a look at it. When I saw this, often it's the first thing that draws your attention. So if you're here live, or if you're watching the recording, type in the comments, like, what was your first reaction to this artwork? My first reaction was um, really personal, in that, like, I just came back from an art retreat that where we talked about um, the whole time internal family systems, and it was about different parts of ourselves, and exploring the different parts of ourselves, and like the protective parts of ourselves, and all the things that are kind of hidden inside of or surrounding our true self. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is of course representing that work that I had just spent, almost I guess 4 days doing. I was really drawn, especially to the different emotional expressions of the face. And now I am going to make myself bigger, smaller, and this bigger so we can see. Doesn't change it that much, but oh, does my mouse show up on here? I don't think it does. Oh, it does. Oh, it does over here. Yay. Okay. So check out like this one, especially. It has like one eye and this sort of gaping mouth with teeth. This one really drew my eye. And then the top of it coming off with this like hooded figure with this arm reaching out. These sort of ghost-like figures really drew my attention. Another thing that drew my attention is are the colors. Like, I love this color scheme. I love Naudline. The artist is Naudline Pierre, which I actually don't know if I already said that or not, but I will put her name on the screen so you can go explore her work like whenever you have a chance, because her work is absolutely incredible. I am obsessed, actually obsessed with her work. And if I would, well, I say she's my favorite. I have two favorites. But anyway, if I could, and I had all the money in the world, I would just like travel to any exhibit she's doing and see her work in person. And it's really big in person too. And it's just, it's like never before have I seen art that I felt so like intimately connected with. Is her work. Like, I feel like she is representing the human experience in such a powerful way in all of her work. So Naudline Pierre is incredible. Does the banner on the screen make it look like I am Naudline Pierre? I don't know. That's what I wonder. So maybe I edit it. I change it to artist. Okay. There we go. We're learning the new kinks of the system. All right. So that was one of the way Naudline Pierre uses color is, to me, really rebellious. Like, she uses these like neon colors and clashing colors, and like she'll have these like bright vivid orange next to hot pink next to like a neon green, but and then like darker colors too, and like it's just really incredible. I love her work so much. So this one, I'm just really drawn to also the expressiveness of her art, how you can see her brush strokes, you can see her lines, you can kind of any artwork where you can like feel the action of the artist. Like, I love looking at that kind of art. I try to make that kind of art, and I can't do it to save my life, but maybe to save my life I could. That's a good question. That's my autistic brain getting a little too literal with to save my life. But I've tried. I can't seem to do it. I would like to be able to do it. Maybe one day I will be able to do it. But I love, like, you can just feel her movement, and you can feel her energy, and you can feel her emotions and her confidence in her art and her soulfulness. Like, it is all there and super potent in all of her works of art. Another thing that drew me to this is like this dark figure on the left, and it's sort of genderless. It is very anonymous. It is very much like in the shadows, and it embodies or depicts the feeling of depression for me. Like it the blankness of the face, like the hopelessness of it, and the sort of like stillness and this sort of straight up and down without any movement. Like it just is really captures that feeling of depression for me. And I have experienced depression on and off throughout my life. And when I see this, like that's what I see when I see this artwork. When I see that figure on the left, it's um almost hard for me to keep looking at. Like I'm looking at it and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know that I want to keep looking at that part." I look at the creepy faces on the right. Those are easier for me to look at than this dark figure on the left. Like I feel like I'm going to get sucked in, you know? Um Hi Cheryl, yay, you're here. So Cheryl in the comment says she would have to tiptoe up to this, but definitely drawn to it. Yes, like I feel like a lot of Naudline Pierre work I just would like beeline to, but this one is like probably would make me gasp and then just like kind of have to ease my way to it and like check it out from different angles and that sort of thing first because there's so much in this that is kind of disturbing, to be honest. So that's our first step is savor. And really just spending time with like what is it that draws you in? Like, the more I spend with it, the more I see like, oh, I'm noticing like these little stars in the background. Like, what's that about? That's really interesting. And maybe there's like a cloud. There's a figure coming down from the sky that is it a crown or is that their hair? There's wings, like winged figures, and I don't know if other people would see the wings, but I see them because Naudline Pierre's work often has winged figures, so I'm automatically like, where are the wings? So like this red figure here, and then also this either is the other wing of the red figure, or maybe it's a wing of someone else. And then this pink figure, I can see the wings there as well. So the winged figures are a common symbol in her work. And then this savor step really is like just spending time with it and noticing it. And if I were in an art museum and I wanted to explore a work of art, it would be just letting my eye wander, and letting my eye see what it sees and notice what it notices. And the more I look at it, the more I'm going to see, especially in this one. Like I've spent some time noticing all of the ones with like obvious faces, like the red one, the pink one, the one-eyed one that I saw first. And then this one that kind of looks like a masked death figure. It also kind of makes me think of the Scream, Edvard Munch's The Scream. But then if you look at the other ones, like this yellow one has this like little masked looking eyes. Like this one has two eye shapes. This one has two holes. Like they have very like rudimentary drawn eye holes. And that makes me think that, they're all faces, but they're just done in such a like fast and expressive way. So I could keep raving about this artwork a lot, but I won't. But I could keep like these feet and one. I love the color. Look at that color is so beautiful. I can't even handle it. Okay, so I am going to move on to the second step, which I actually forgot what I called the second step. So I had to go open the file that I can step in it. This is actually available. This 4-step process is available on my website. If you go to cindyingram.com and you click book at the top, at the very bottom of that page, there's a email opt-in, and you'll get an email that has these 4 steps. Okay, so savor is be with the art, be with yourself, spend time with it as long as you can, soak it in, luxuriate in it, let your eye Wander to all the parts of the artwork, take in every hue, texture, and detail. Notice your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations as they arrive. So that's not one thing I didn't mention when I was looking at it, is what feelings is it bringing up in me? And Cheryl kind of in her comment kind of alluded to a feeling that I was giving her as like, oh, there's a little bit of maybe like a fear or a hesitancy that came up in her about this. That came up for me as well as like the discomfort of looking at the figure on the left. That really does, like, I'm doing it again. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I don't want to keep looking at that. Like, I feel like if I keep looking at that, I will not be able to stop. Like, it's going to suck me in and I'm not going to be able to recover. So noticing like those feelings, because those feelings have really interesting insights for you and insights about your life and things like that. Okay, so that was step number one. Our second step is make meaning. So I'm going to read you the description of make meaning now that I have opened this file, which is allow your curiosity to guide you as you explore the potential meaning of the artwork. What is going on in this artwork? How do you know? What bigger themes do you think the artist is what bigger themes do you think the artist is exploring, if any? Consider the potential hidden symbols and meanings in the imagery, the colors, and the other choices made by the artist. What emotions and body sensations do you experience with this artwork and why? So that's the same question as before, but it's more like interpreting those emotions and body sensations. Okay, so I told you kind of, I immediately had a meaning come up with this. Like, it was like, oh, I know exactly what this is about. So I would love to hear if someone else had different meanings. What I have found in the Art Connection Circle, which is always fascinating, is that everybody does indeed get different meanings from works of art. I mean, surprise. It's not that shocking, but that I really do feel like having that name Naudline Pierre on there makes it seem like it's me and I'm saying I'm her. And that's freaking me out. So I'm going to just take that off. There we go. Oh, it does say my name. That's probably fine. It's okay. It's not, we know it's Naudline Pierre by this point. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, okay. So my immediate thought was, this is a depressed figure in a state of clinical depression, not just a sad figure, but like a depressed person. And then these are all of the quote unquote demons that person is facing. Now, like I said, I was in a retreat last week and we did, excuse me for the noise. I have all the fidgets and I really like to play with this one, but it's noisy. So I need to put it out of sight so I don't grab it. In internal family systems, which is created by Richard Schwartz, he says, there are all these parts of you, and I've learned all this through Allison Crow, who's amazing. And that's whose event I was at. But all these parts of you that are in there are all benevolent, that they all have a purpose, and that they are not like demons. They are not there to hurt you in any way. That maybe the actions that these parts do, or the things that they influence you, how they influence your behavior, might be leading you to things that are negative, that they are doing it as a way to protect something deeper. And so there's a whole outline of, there are like these really deep parts of you that are like really buried down. And those are your exiled parts. Those are your parts you don't want anybody to see. And then there's protectors, firefighters and managers whose job it is to protect those exiles. So like, for example, I have a part, actually, I'm just gonna, rather than try to pull this out of my mind, I'm going to look at my actual parts map. We created a map of our parts. So, so I can use a real example that like I have a part that feels like they are always misunderstood. And so it's this fear of being misunderstood. And that influences my behavior in so many ways. It makes me apologize. It makes me um, constantly says, "Am I making sense?" Or it makes me not talk and not speak up to begin with. It makes me like when I do a podcast episode, I can't like go back and listen to it because I'm so scared I'm gonna like come off as like a dumb and you're not gonna understand what I'm saying, or whatever. Like there that part has gotten I do feel better about that part. Like I don't feel as misunderstood as I used to. But like that's kind of one of my deeper parts that like has a deep fear of being misunderstood. And so like another part might come in to protect that part. So let me see if I can find a protector of my misunderstood part. Um, so I have a manager part that seeks approval from other people, that I need like external validation that I'm doing an okay job, that you understand me, that like I need like positive reinforcement, like, oh, if I haven't seen a friend in a while, I need that friend to be like, I still like you. It's, like, or I will believe you hate me, but that part that is like constantly seeking approval, like wants to make sure, okay, you're still loved, you're still liked, you're still understood. Um, so that protector kind of protects a couple different parts, because there is another part, like deep parts, like being unlovable and unlikable. So there's like, it's a whole system, and there's a whole like what Allison calls a parts party. Like there's all these parts in you that are just like um all defense mechanisms basically that are trying to protect you from getting hurt, and they might do it in a way that hurts your overall mm, like what you're trying to accomplish in the world, like keeps you from that, but they're really trying to keep you from pain. And they don't want you to feel pain in any sort of way. Okay, that was like a whole tangent on teaching about IFS, which I'm not a teacher of IFS. So if you're interested in that, you can read. There's books on it. No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz, and Alison Crow has really great stuff on her Facebook and probably her podcast as well. Probably her website too. But I know her Facebook has a ton. So let's go back to the art, because then I got on a whole tangent. Yeah, when I look at this, I see the parts that are represented here are the really young, vulnerable, um, delicate parts, like the ones that are hurting the most, the ones that are like really deeply buried. And it almost is like when I'm looking at it as I go up, like the ones at the top are feeling to me more like loving and protective. Oh, I'm sorry. I was pointing with my mouse on the wrong place. So like the pink and the red, like how they feel more loving, they feel more protective. I can't figure out what's going on with this red thing. And my brain doesn't want to figure it out. Like it's like, no, you don't, you don't need to know what that is. Because it feels like it's like the backside of a part. Yeah, I don't want to spend any time with that red one. So it's almost like it feels to me like these parts are soothing the parts down below. and they're helping them. And one of the questions that Allison asks when she coaches you with IFS is, she asks you to ask the part, you communicate directly with the part, and you ask it, like, how old are you? And then how old do you think I am? And so it kind of gives you information on like when that part might have been formed. So like maybe when you were 8, you loved, um, to draw, and then somebody told you that, or somebody laughed at your drawing, and then you developed a part that was like, ooh, drawing equals pain. So I'm gonna stifle the drawing. You're not gonna draw anymore because we know that because drawing equals pain. So you can't draw anymore. But then there's like this really deep part of you that like really loves to draw and wants to draw, but can't because this protector part is like, no, you can't draw anymore because that means you are going to get laughed at, and that means that you're not going to belong anymore. You're going to get exiled. You're going to not belong in your community. You're going to get hurt. You're going to, like your safety is threatened. And so like all this happened because someone laughed at your drawing. And then we know that stuff happens, especially when we're young, when we're so like impressionable. So like that's to me like these parts look so young and innocent, like this little blue ghost looking one, like, oh, it almost looks like this like innocent little baby bird. It's like a little beak. Another thing that it reminds me of is I just joined a group recently, and it's about shadow work. And so it's about the like exploration of your, and the way she explained it is, this was Isley Hallows, and she explained it like your shadow, like if you're on a journey on a boat and you're trying to get to a place, but then your boat has a bunch of anchors that drop into the ground and drop to the bottom of the sea, and then they keep you from moving forward. That your shadow is like those anchors, and figuring out where those anchors are and getting them up so that you can keep moving forward in your journey. They're the things that about yourself that you don't want people to understand, that you don't want people to see, that you want to hide from the world, that you don't want people to know about. And to me, it feels really similar to parts work, and I'm still really new to it. I think that there's some major differences in that maybe the shadow work is these parts are bad and you're trying to like excavate them, but I'm not quite sure yet. I'm still learning. But I was, in this container was learning about shadow work, and I kind of listed what I thought some of my like deepest shadows were, and like the things that I don't want people to know. And if I look at my parts list, I can see like, I don't want people to know that I'm kind of a mess. I mean, I clearly have gotten over it because you're like seeing all my mess behind me. But like, I don't want people to know that I'm a mess, or that I don't have it all together. That was a big thing is when I was growing up, is in my 20s especially, it's like I wanted to seem impressive and like I had it all together, and that I would hide the fact that like really I was a mess. I would hide, like I would hide behind masks of like I needed to be smart and different things like that. But the shadows that came up now, like the one that I think that came up the most when I was thinking about it is like selfishness, like this fear that you're going to see that I'm so selfish, that like I resent when people ask me to do things or, and that's like demand avoidance, but like, or like like today I had to go and take some Tylenol to my daughter at school. She had a headache, and I, don't want to sit there telling Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all the places that I did something I don't want you to know about myself, but like that I felt like kind of resentful that I had to go do that. I'm like, oh, I got to stop what I'm doing and bring her some Tylenol, and like that the selfishness is something that I feel like would be in my shadow. There's also like internalized ableism, racism, The really deeply buried things that we all have deeply buried, I'm sure are in my shadows. I'm still learning those sorts of things. But if I were to lead an activity with this artwork in their connection circle or something like that, we might look at this and label some of these faces as some of our parts, and what that part is there, what that part is communicating, what that part is trying to protect you from, um, what that part needs from you, um, or what that part needs to know, all of that kind of thing. That would be a really lovely activity to do in the Art Connection Circle. This might end up being in the Art Connection Circle because it is a perfect artwork for the Art Connection Circle. And then so that's really my interpretation. That's my making of meaning. Now, I was going to tell you I was going through these 4 steps, but I literally have gone through like all the steps without telling you. I went straight for my personal stuff. I skipped. So make meaning was just to tell what it's about. So I like went right over that into step 3, which was connect. And step 3 is consider your own personal connection to the artwork. What does the artwork remind you of in your own life? And where can you find yourself in this artwork? So I did that thoroughly with even broke out my parts map. And yeah, I skipped a step. Okay, but then the last step is emerge. And this is a step I really love. And I got this step from the podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. And they do a process called Lectio Divina, which is a Bible study process where you analyze a Bible verse. But they did it in the podcast with Harry Potter quotes. And they would go through kind of a similar 4-step process. They do a narrative, they do symbols, and then they do the connect. But then the last step is like, what are you going to do now that you have had this awareness? So let's change things up. Make my face a little bit bigger. Okay, so what are you going to do now? Now that you have this awareness, so you're going to have like a lot of aha moments, about your life. You're like, oh, this is why I do this thing. But then if you don't actually do anything with that information, like I could be like, I have the awareness all the time that I love to take walks, but I don't actually take them. And that awareness that I don't actually take walks, and maybe even why, like it doesn't do me any good if I don't actually do something about that information. If I don't actually think about like, well, what is it that's keeping me from taking the walks and like actually going on the walks, like that, there's a disconnect there. So the emerge step is maybe you think about some sort of action that you can take that will move you forward towards your goals in life. So what did you learn about yourself looking at this artwork? How can you create your most beautiful life using lessons from this artwork? What steps forward can you take in your life based on inspiration from this artwork? And how can your life be different now because of your interaction with this artwork? And what small changes or adjustments can you make in your life? So there's just some questions that you can ask yourself about this in this last step of emerge. So what would I answer? This is one of those times I'm like, I need to be quiet, but I'm talking. I think the biggest thing I'm noticing with me is my avoidance of that figure on the left and the fear of that figure on the left and the like I really do feel uncomfortable when I look at it. And so I think that there's probably something in me that is it's hitting a little bit too close to home, or maybe the thing I need to do is to spend more time with that figure, and that figure will communicate with me like what it needs from me, which is not something I can do whilst talking on a live stream. So yeah, that's the biggest thing for me is like, what is that figure trying to communicate to me? Because it feels like it is trying to, and I am avoiding it. It also, on a completely unrelated to the parts work note, it makes me want to try again at painting more expressively. I've been painting lately with this gouache set that we got at the retreat last week, and I'm learning that, I did some like really expressive things in my art journal, like not intentionally, but it was like when I had extra paint on my brush, and like I really loved what happened. Wait, hold on, let me change the camera angle. I'll show them to you. Like I really loved these, like what happened when I cleaned off my brush. And I have a lot of these pages of more expressive things, and I kind of stuck with color schemes, and so like it is possible for me to do it without thinking at all, but can I do it and not overthink it? And can I do it outside of an art journal, outside of just cleaning up off my brush? Every time I look at Naudline Pierre's work, I wonder, could I paint something that soulful and amazing and expressive? And I don't want to copy her. I don't want to mimic, like her style. But when I look at her work, it makes me want to paint, and it makes me want to paint big, and it makes me want to paint expressively. And I don't do that typically. There's a reason that canvas behind me is like turned around, because I'm very self-conscious about painting. So that's another step. Like, why don't I turn that canvas around and like see what happens if I try to paint big and expressively. So that's step 4, which is emerge. Okay. I didn't know how long I would end up going. But I ended up going 47 minutes. So that shows you I can talk about art forever, even without someone else here to riff off of. All right. So thank you so much for joining me in this episode, exploring this untitled artwork by Naudline Pierre. I wish I knew the title. If I figure out the title, I'll put it on here. As a reminder, these will be posted on my podcast, so you can subscribe on any of your favorite podcast players, but the videos are available on Facebook, on both my perfect. Cheryl made a comment and it said terrific, and I was saying personal, and so it became perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for watching and sticking with me. Yeah, you can find this on Facebook, my personal profile and my page, and on my LinkedIn profile, random, and then YouTube as well. So thank you so much. And I'm not going to do intros and outros. I'm going to keep this super simple. And again, if you want to talk about an artwork with me on here, hit me up and let me know, and we can schedule something. All right. I am going to call it a day for today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time.